Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
How would you like to achieve your first million? And today we have a special guest from United States. His name is Wyatt Simon, and he's a property entrepreneur. So Wyatt, tell us, what are the 5 steps to make your first million?
Well, first off, thanks for having me. You want to make your first million? Here's my 5 steps for you. Number 1 is you got to start by making money. For me, that was getting a job, right? And I failed at my first job. So what I did is I then worked for a big corporate company, and that corporate company taught me so many invaluable things. So I learned and I added to my skill set. So the first one is you got to start making money, go get a corporate job and work somewhere that's good. Next, you got to be so good they can't ignore you. That's step 2.
Wow.
So you really got to add to your skill sets. Cam Newport wrote the book, So Good They Can't Ignore You. And so
wow. I love this title.
Yeah, it's a great book. It changed my life. So not only did I get a job, but I became the best at my job. And I didn't become the best at my job in my company. I became the best at my job in the network.
Wow.
Right? I was the top salesman out of 350 companies nationwide. And so that changed my life. And because I got good at it, then I was able to I added to my skill sets. Because I added to my skill sets, that then allowed me to go solve a problem. Step number 3 is go solve a problem in the workplace, right? The problem that I was facing was, dude, I was making good money, but I had nothing for retirement. And I didn't want to just have nothing for retirement, right? I wanted my money to be making money for me. So I started buying real estate.
Wow.
So started solving the problem, starting to buy real estate. 4 is once you start scaling, you have to learn how to delegate, right? And so on the way from 0 to $1 million, you got to learn how to hire people. Dude, that was the hardest thing I'd ever done in my life, was learn how to hire and fire people. Oh my God. I had a maintenance tech that was working for me that was stealing money from me. And he was subcontracting work, saying he was doing it, inflating his hours. And then one time I had a guy on a Harley show up to my doorstep demanding money.
Wow.
I called him Dirty Mike afterwards. But at the time it was scary. My wife comes up to me. He's like, who is this guy at our door? Right. Not feeling safe. And so long story short, I found out what had happened and then fired the maintenance guy. But all along the lines, it was very stressful, and I had to learn how to delegate correctly to the right people on my team. And so then once you start doing that, you really start to level up. You got the problem, you got your skill set, you got the delegation. Then you make it to $1 million. And then what? You got to find balance in life. So you can't over obsess, that there's been times in my life where I'm just obsessed of business, and I'd almost lost my marriage because I was so obsessed of business. Right. And so now I've learned that I need to find balance in life and make sure I prioritize the ones that care deeply about me, because without relationships, life is it's not worth it. So keep those relationships that you need to have, keep them good.
Yeah, I thank you so much, Wyatt, and I resonate with you. I remember you talking about the maintenance. But when we start with the business, number 1, I congratulate you for your one of best decision ever that you have done. That you decide that to build your own pension, right? To trust in the pension of the government, because I think that if you can take control of your future yourself, that would be very helpful. Nothing wrong against the pension of the government, but honestly, if you can build your own, it's way better. Yeah, I remember I used to have in my property business a landlady, and she was Jewish. She owns like 10 properties, and I was managing her properties. And I remember she was telling me all the time, Harry, look at my property. These properties are my pension. I'm like, why this woman is telling me? I didn't understand. And after I understand, she's telling me that this property I have pension is the truth, the other property they were pay off the mortgage, and she was always traveling and everything. And so she didn't need the pension for the government. She built her own pension. So that's number one. Number two, I'm glad that you raised the point of hiding. And I think, let me tell you something story. When we hired the first plumber, in our company, we hired the guy, and the boiler get broken. We send the guy, and the guy say, "Harry, it's the fan. We need to change the fan and fix this." Okay. Then the next time, Harry, it's the fan. Then the next time, I'm like, man, every time that you need to fix the boiler, you have to change the fan. It does, you know what I mean? Sometimes, until you don't find the right people, it's painful. Yeah, been there, done it. But you know what? This now the plumber that I have, we've been working together for 15, 17 years, I think. And I just called him and said, listen, I have this problem. He's like my family. We have done so much business together. He have fixed so many things for me that I don't even need to have the conversation. When he goes to fix something for me, if he tell me, Harry, it's 500, it's 600, 1,000, 2,000, I don't need to go to this conversation. Oh, why it's expensive? Or why you did? Why, we don't need that at this stage. Is telling you, my electrician, the same thing. We have a relationship with these people that we've been together, making a lot of money and doing a lot of projects for so many years that we have like a family relation. So they have the keys of the houses. They open the houses by themselves. They have the keys. But it didn't happen overnight. It takes time, yeah, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating, especially at the beginning. You build in the business, you're doing all the work yourself. You don't have resources, and on top of that, people start to inflate fees, people start to stealing from you, people start to do this. You start to accumulate all this negative baggage, okay, and that negative baggage, can keep you angry, can create this emotional pain. That number one, you can have a reflection, like you said, you almost lose your marriage because of it, but also can create the physical pain. You can end up with cancer. You can end up with things. So when was the maximum point that you say, you know what? I'm running this business is not running me, and I'm not gonna ruin my life because of it. So when you said I have enough, I'm on charge, and I'm doing this to be happy, I'm doing this to be healthy, I'm doing this to be wealthy, I'm doing this because I deserve it. I'm not doing this to be stressed out. I'm not doing this to have strange people knocking on my door and everything. When do you make that switch? What happened?
I would say it was for me, I can very vividly remember the time that it happened. Unfortunately, it was when I had to let an employee go. And
it's painful, no?
Yeah, the reason why it was so painful is because she meant good. And she had been with me for 2 years as we had built this. And she started as an Airbnb cleaner. And she was awesome. She was an awesome Airbnb cleaner. And then she started turning units for me. And she's like, I do that too. So then she bid it. And she was like more cost effective than anyone else. And so then she did it. And she did it fast. And I was like, wow,
Amazing,
this girl's incredible. And so then eventually, as I started a property management company, I hired her and she became a property manager. And I said, hey, like instead of you having to work with your hands all the time, like now you can start to work with your head, because I know she was getting some carpal, tunnel in her thumbs, and I wanted to help her. And I saw potential in her because she, just had such a make it happen mindset. The problem was she didn't have a skill set to be a property manager. And then as I continued to add properties to my tool belt, she did not have the skill set to be a property manager, and I didn't have the skill set to be a good manager. And what that means is I didn't take enough time to really train her on everything. And I mean, the amount of time that it would have it just I failed. Like there was a point where I was like, hey, you need a computer for this. And so she bought her first computer, and then I taught her how to use I came over and I was like, okay, open up your browser. Didn't know what that was, right? Didn't know how to use the internet. And so the amount of training, like basically what I did is I failed as a leader to put the right people in the right spot. And then I tried to pull up people that were not qualified with me as I scaled the portfolio. And, you know, it worked when I was at 50 units, and at 76 units, it got painful. And at 110 units, it got broken.
You cannot,
and yeah. And so then I had to reshape the entire company. And at this point, now we've got 180 units. We've got 6 full-time team members, and things are going so much smoother. And so that was the time I had to make the tough call and say, all right, I'm sorry, but it's just not going to work because my sanity and my marriage is worth more than me trying to teach you computer skills and do something you're not qualified for. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that we have been there. Honestly, the how we hired the people in our company, right? We look more for that attitude that this girl have. You know, someone that you know, that is proactive, that have the mindset, that can do everything. However, sometimes, you know, I've been there. I understand and resonate with you 100%. I'm a firm believer that everybody can learn and that everybody can grow. Yeah. But the truth is that it doesn't always work. It doesn't always work because not everybody have the skill set, or not everybody. I have both examples. I have people that, you know, I have my IT director. I have people that have been working with me from years, that they started with a job very basic, and today they you know, they have big roles in the company, and they solve a lot of problems, and they didn't even went to university, but a lot of IT people that go to university, he managed all of them, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So I have this. However, I can tell you that not always works. This is my dream as well. I like to lift people up like you described. But when it works, it's amazing. Yeah. So, but you have to take this 50-50 chance. For me, that's what I'm trying to do, because I'm looking more for the attitude. I always think, okay, if they have the positive attitude, the mindset, you know, the proactive mindset, I always said, well, eventually everybody can learn. But sometimes, I mean, it's expensive, the learning. Sometimes it takes longer, and, you know, it costs money a lot. You know, if you have to, you know, pay the salary, pay for the training, and also lose money because it's no, and at some point, yeah, and I get it, you feel responsible, you know, but in the end, it's a business decision. You have to let that go, because as you are in charge of the boat. If you're not around, it's not only her, it's everybody goes out. The tenants, the property manager, the investor, who knows? You know what I mean? So it's a bigger picture. So you have to have that mental health stable, because at the end of the day, especially in the property business, you are responsible for everybody. I remember back in the day when we have 177 tenants. It was a lot. I'm going to sleep and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm responsible for all these people. I start to go out. Before, I used to go out and go to the clubs and drink and have fun. The more I grew the business, I didn't even want to go out. You know, I was scared. I said, man, if I'm drinking here and one property, you know, the heater is not working and the tenants are cold, or somebody call me with an emergency. So the more responsibility, the more the business grew, the more responsibility I get, the more my life started to change in a way that, you know, we say, hey, we make $1 million, sounds amazing, but that million comes with a lot of responsibility attached to it. It doesn't come from the sky, you know what I mean? So
Yeah. Delayed gratification, right?
yeah,
Like responsibility is real. Everyone says they want the million. Like, do you actually want to pay the price? Right? Because that
exactly.
means going to bed at night. That means not watching YouTube and not staying up late and not going to the clubs. Like, you're either everything that you say yes to, you're saying no to thousands more of
Mhm.
what you're having to give up. And so sometimes you have to subtract before you can add because you got to give up that stuff to get what you want.
Exactly. That million, like the people that say, no, I'm making a million, making 10 million. What? The more money they're making, the more responsibility they have. It goes proportional. It doesn't go, it goes together, one thing with the other one. Nothing wrong with that. I love it. Yeah, we have a lot of fun doing this property thing. And honestly, it's a good vehicle. That's the other question I want to ask you, Wyatt. Yeah, like I shared before, what are 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6 people that we interview in this podcast? We interview around 500 people. They are all property investors and property millionaires. So it could lead to the impression that it's very easy to make money in property and to become a millionaire in property or to become a millionaire in tech. A lot of tech multimillionaires also have been interviewed in this podcast, 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6. But the truth is that it's not as easy as it sounds. Yeah. Of course, the fact that you see a lot of wealthy property entrepreneurs in this podcast, you might think, oh my God, it's really easy to make money in property. And it's not complex. However, this is the other side, right? It gets a lot of responsibility. You need to have a lot of skill sets. It's a lot of how can I explain to you? If you make a mistake in other business, you lose 2,000, 3,000, 10,000. You make a mistake in property, you lose 50K like this, 100K or 200K, or you make one mistake and you can never get back in your life.
Mhm.
Depend on the size of the mistake. Don't have been there. If
Yeah.
I tell you a story, you cry. Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
so tell us a little bit, about what is the reality to be a successful property uh, investor, a successful property entrepreneur. Is it really that easy like people think, or you really have to do the work?
Yeah. So the first property I ever bought was a duplex, and I lived in one side and I rented out the other.
I like that.
And it's a great strategy when you're getting started because I was able to
Hmm.
reduce my
Good
living
knowledge.
expenses
Yeah,
to zero from that. So great way to get your
brilliant.
feet wet, right? The next property I bought it, I fixed it up, and then I rented it. And that one went good. The third property I bought, and at that point, I thought I was a genius. And
No,
just
you
by
said
the
that you were the
way,
king of the world. Yeah. Oh, this is
right.
dangerous. Oh my God.
Right. So then the third property, I'm like, what could happen? Right. So then I buy my third property.
Oh
I
yeah.
call this the Purple Palace. So it was a purple house, a really crappy purple house that had been sitting vacant for a while. I bought it. I started working on it. I was doing the work after work hours. I was going out there to do the work. The city inspector came up to me and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm working on the property." What do you mean? "I'm bettering the community." He said, "Where's your permit?" I said, "What's a permit?" And so then he educated me on what a permit was and what a red tag was, which means he shut down the project and I had to pay four
Wow.
times more to renovate this house because I had to get licensed contractors to work on the house and pull the permits for it. So my rehab that I thought was going to be 2 months and cost me $20,000 took me 11 months and costed me $60,000. So I
Wow.
was
At this early stage.
$40,000.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I was $40,000 over budget on this thing. Finally got it rented. It was a pain in the ass. And then the tenant calls me and says, "Wyatt, it smells downstairs." I said, "What do you mean?" So anyways, I go over there and there's sewage all over the downstairs, all
Oh
over.
my God.
I'm like, oh my gosh. So then I get a plumber to come out. Turns out this house was built during World War I and it has Orangeburg pipe. Have you ever heard of Orangeburg pipe before?
No.
I hadn't either. So Orangeburg pipe is basically paper mache
Ah, wow.
that over time turns to dust because they used all the metal during World War I.
Oh
And
my
so
God.
what that meant is I had no sewer line. And so I had to have a plumber come out and dig a sewer line all the way out to the street.
Brand new. Oh my God.
And then they had to connect to
Sounds
the
expensive.
street. So I had to redo the asphalt in the street. That was another $14,600 that I did not have at the time. And so to your question, I was $66,400 over budget at that point for what I had thought it was going to be. And if I wasn't getting good at my job and making money in my job, I would not have been able to afford this
Come
very
back out from
costly
that.
mistake. Right?
Yeah.
And so to your point, there's a learning curve in everything. It's how do you want to pay for that learning curve? And so you can pay for it in three ways. You can pay for it in the School of Hard Knocks, like I did on that project, or you can partner with experience by bringing on someone who's been there, done that, and just pay for it by giving them equity. Or you can pay for it with a consultant and pay them money for someone who's been there and done that to then learn from them. And I can tell you that I would not have been able to scale my portfolio without consulting. And I have paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for consulting for people that are much wiser and older than me to tell me, don't do this, do this. And I sit here in front of you now, I'm about to turn 30. I built a $20 million portfolio, and it's all because of the mentorship of people ahead of me that I paid for, right? And it's had a 2,300x return. So I would pay for it again in a heartbeat, and I still do to this day.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And then what the thing is that the other day I interview an entrepreneur, an old guy here in this podcast. The guy had like 40 exits, in different industries, nothing to do with property. And then he moved to Colorado, and he said, look, I want to do property investing. He's already a multi-millionaire, but he want to go into the property investing game. And he told me, look, I'm 2 years, I'm started to do property investing, and now I have a large portfolio of property in Colorado that worth millions. And I'm like, man, how you did it? And he told me, Harry, this is what I did. I find the property coach in Colorado, and I paid them a lot of money for it. Then he told me everything about this property investing thing, and this is how I did it. So, and I'm telling you about multi-millionaire that have exit 40 companies. Someone that has a lot of experience, that understand business very good, and he's so humble. He's so easy going to understand. Okay, I want to do this business, but let's face it, I don't have any clue about property. I know about business because I exit 40 companies in different industries. So I know what is business. Now, property business, I don't know. And the first thing that this multimillionaire did with all his experience, it was to hire a mentor. So there is a big difference where the successful people, they understand that, the value of the mentorship, the value to hire a coach, to have a mentor, someone that have been there, and they're willing to invest because they know by fact that the trial and error is way too expensive, and because those multimillionaires, they already have been in your journey, maybe know what happened with the house, but they know they make a mistake that was huge for lack of knowledge. They know how expensive it is, and they know that they don't want to go back to a trial and error. However, Wyatt, we find that 90% of the entrepreneurs out there, that they are struggling, that they are stuck, that they are not growing, they are trying to do everything by themselves. And they don't want to ask for help. They don't want to even consider to talk with the mentor or with the coach, even if it's free. They don't believe in that way of thinking that you're just sharing. But then when you look at them, they are stuck. They're working Monday to Sunday. They are working 10, 12 hours. They cannot talk with the wife. They cannot talk with the kids. They're angry, and they are stuck. So what message do you have for those entrepreneurs out there that they are suffering, but they don't believe in the power of mentorship or coaching.
Now I get it. And I was there. Like I
Me
put
too.
my,
Me too.
I get it, it sucks. Like it is the hardest thing. It's the narrow road. Entrepreneurship is hard. Like it's hard until it's not. And even then it gets hard. Like, so it is the smaller path, but it's rewarding if you stick with it. Right. And so if you're out there and you're struggling and you're not making where you want to be at as an entrepreneur, what you got to look down is you really got to look and set a lot. What I find in a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of even like my clients that I coach is they don't have the beliefs necessary. So what are you actually worth per hour? Right? I believe we're all worth the same amount when it comes to God, but in a capitalistic society, you do have a skill set that you can apply your time and go make money in a certain dollar per hour task, right? And so if you're making money, at getting paid a wage, then you know your hourly rate, right? If it's commissions, then you got to calculate that per appointment and calculate it. But if you don't know your hourly rate, then how can you say no to the tasks that aren't worth your time? You don't know. And so number one, you got to calculate your hourly rate. Number two, you got to sit down and do an audit and look at what are the tasks I'm doing that are not worth my time. And what are the tasks that are worth my time that I need to double down on? And there's a great book about this. It's 10x is greater than 2x by Benjamin Hardy and Dr. Sullivan, same guys that wrote Who Not How. And they talk about your unique ability and doubling down on your unique ability. And so you got to find what generates you the most money, go double down on it and say no to everything else and double down on it again and do that process 10 times. And that is how you get to the next level. And it gives yourself permission to say no to all those other tasks that are dragging you down, that are making you work, all these odd hours. It is doable, but you got to get the cash in the business and then say no to everything else.
Yeah. And then on the other hand, with property, it comes in order to be successful in the property business. I think that there is something that we call it specific knowledge, right? It's your specific niche, your specific knowledge. I have a Jewish property investor friend of mine. He owns property in the United States and in London, lots of it. And one day I was walking with him in London, and then it was like a building like that, and it was like a house in between. And he told me, Harry, have you seen this house there? I'm saying, yes. He told me, you see, this on top, we call it airspace. If in London you have a building here and a building here and the house is lower in the middle, you can literally go high. And he told me, people don't know that. But I'm telling you so you know it. That if a property comes to sell and it have this airspace and the price is good, you can buy it because the owner doesn't know that he can go up and build a second property on top, but now you know it. Yeah. And obviously, this property investor sharing this with me because he owns a lot of property. He have access to a lot of information, and he shared this piece of information. So, on that sense, Wyatt, what is that piece of information? What are that piece of a specific thing that you are applying to your business that give you the edge against your competitors? If that makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, the industry specified knowledge is huge.
Exactly. Very specified knowledge. When you have very specified knowledge that that very few people know, and then you apply and you stick to it, you can build an empire very quickly. Which is, I think, that's what happened to you. You're clearly very young. Look at me. My hands is falling. When I was your age, I was doing party and chasing guests, man. I was not building business.
Well, I got the wife locking me down, so but yeah. So to answer your question, the thing that really changed the ball game for me was something called the BRRRR strategy. And so the BRRRR strategy stands for buying a property, renovating it, renting it, refinancing it, and repeat. And why is that so good? You're nodding your head yes. You obviously know what this means.
In London, in UK, works amazing, this process that
Yes.
you described.
So the reason why that's so important is you buy an asset, you can fix it up, make it worth more. Then you can refinance all of your existing capital back out of that asset, which means you own an asset with no money. Now, when you can start to pick up assets with no money, that sounds really attractive to a 20-year-old that wants to build a portfolio, right? So I latched onto that concept and I started applying it to how can I buy these properties? And so I started buying single family houses, and then eventually I started buying multifamily properties. And now we do multifamily and single family. And we've just kind of, as we've grown, now we've grown equity in the portfolio. So now we're able to take more loans out on the portfolio and we lend it out at higher rates. So we do hard money and private money financing on the portfolio. And now we do consulting, right? I wouldn't be able to consult and tell people how to do this if I didn't do it. And so like on the wall behind me is a John Maxwell quote: "A leader knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way." Right. And so all of this is doubled down. At first it was just the BRRRR strategy on houses. And then I doubled down again with multifamily. Then I doubled down again with lending and then coaching. And then now I have a book coming out, right? All of this is the doubling down on that industry specific knowledge.
That's fantastic. And I think that in the end of the day, it's all about find out what are your strengths, right? And have the right people around you that can you the other task, because at the end of the day, what is your problem is not the problem of somebody else. We think not because it's hard for us to do, at the beginning, obviously, of the business, you have to do everything because you don't have resources. And of course, you need to go and fix your own house and to paint your own house. We all done it because you cannot even afford to pay a painter. You're just starting out. But
And how are you supposed to know what to pay contractors? Right.
Yeah.
The reason I worked on the houses, I didn't know how to work on houses, but I needed to know if contractors were ripping me off or not. So I had to go do it myself, industry specific knowledge, to then double down to get leverage. Right.
Exactly. And then I remember we did a lot of renovations in the houses, and we did a lot of work, big projects. Yeah. And I remember the building was telling me, okay, Harry, this is how much the material it cost. We will pick a house. I would say, okay, we need to renovate that. And then the bid, they come and say, okay, this is how much your material is going to cost you. And I'm telling the bidder, no, the material doesn't cost this, my friend. And the guy is looking at me like, say, how this guy can know that the material that I'm inflating this, how this guy knows that the material doesn't cost this. And what this bidder didn't know is I've done it 20 houses before. By now, and the first house that I did, I went myself, I pick up the material. I know the square meter of the whole house. I know exactly which inch of everything the house needs. The fact that this misconception, and we have this a lot in the building, in the contractor industry, right? That the people think that because we hiring them that we don't know. And most of the time, we are hiding them most likely because we done it ourselves before. And the business went well, and now we don't need to do it ourselves enough. Now it's enough resources to pay them. But that doesn't mean that we're stupid. That doesn't mean that we don't know. Probably, especially the people that start like you and me, from zero with nothing, you pretty much need to do everything yourself until you start to make some money that you can pay someone, right? Now it's very easy. Now I need to paint my house and pick up the phone and call a subcontractor and say paint the house. But before it was not like that. Before I had to paint it myself and find the cheapest paint, and then you go and you buy the cheapest paint, and then you find out that, well, rather than do one, you need to do four, and it's more tiring, this thing. And then the cheapest paint is not cheap as all those mistakes. Yeah, is part of our learning curve. And then the contractors, if we haven't done that job, we cannot tell them. But once you tell them, look, it doesn't cost that, go on and do your numbers again. And if you don't come back with something reasonable, you cannot work in this project, my friend. Yeah. Because if something as simple as give the quotation for material, you cannot do it, how gonna trust you to refurbish the whole property? You know? And so it was like that eventually we start to find amazing people. Honest people, great people, it was about that. But at the beginning, exactly, I didn't know how it costs to fix a boiler. So the people said, change the fan. I said, I'll pay. How much? Whatever. Okay, change the fan. I'll pay. 3-4 times. I said, look, there is something wrong here, my friend. It can't be that always the fan. The fan, I remember, was like 200, 300 pounds, It was a lot of money for somebody starting the business, and the guy is killing me. Of course, he's not changing any funds. You know what I mean? But anyway.
I know, yeah. I know exactly what you mean. I can think of a unit turn that I had that it took me, we were budgeting that it would take us like around $8,000 to $9,000 and about 2 months at most. And this unit turn took us 6 different contractors that we fired, every single one until the last one. This unit turn took us 5 months and probably about $36,000 because we kept firing and like it was just an absolute nightmare. Like all because when you don't know what you don't know and then you hire the wrong people, at the end. Yeah.
Anyway, Wyatt, I want to hear the story about the purple house. What happened in the end? It went up on price. Did you make your money back or still?
So thankfully, I bought it right. I bought it very deeply discounted from a wholesaler. So I bought it for $30,000. At the end of it, I was all in about 60, about 90. It was about $96,000, and it appraised at 125 when I was all said and done. And I got the tenant in there after everything. And so I actually rented that house for 3 years and then eventually sold it and then 1031 that money into another asset. That was a better asset. So
there you go.
It worked out. I lucked out somewhat, but
it was a very good learning experience. Yeah.
Yes. It was very stressful at the time.
Yeah, but I think that, that shaped you what you are today, for being so young entrepreneur, you're very mature, you know what I mean? So sometimes the worst day in your life become the best day in your life. Steve Jobs always said that you only can join the dots backwards, and maybe that puppet house, shape your life as an entrepreneur, that you have to be more careful, that we don't know it all. Yeah. Especially in property, been there, done it, the first thing goes amazing, the second thing goes amazing, the third thing goes amazing. Now you think that you're the king of the world, you know everything. And then when a hit comes, oh my God, it's painful, my friend. Yeah.
Exactly. Get humbled quick.
Been there, done it. So but it's all about developing the skill. We think that, the entrepreneur is skills, and property entrepreneurs also. The more you practice, the better you become. And unfortunately, this purple house eventually will appear in your path. I haven't met any multimillionaire yet of any industry that tell me, Harry, you know what? I got this idea, I start this business, and everything was so smoothly, and I make my millions very easy. Haven't met anyone yet, because it's a skill. The more you practice, the better you become, and for you to develop that skill, part of the process is to deal with setbacks and work your way around and overcome that setbacks. And if this is part of the process of becoming an entrepreneur. Now you are more sharp, you're more aware, you're more careful every time that you hire someone, you're more careful every time that you choose the property, you do more research, and that's why it's allowing you to double down easier and faster, right? So what is someone, Wyatt, like the content that we have shared and want to become a property entrepreneur? Yeah, which I can tell to all our audience that is an amazing vehicle to make money. Don't get me wrong. You can make a lot of money in property. If you have the right mentor, you have the right coach, you have the right strategy. If you like property, because some people have to like property, to be passionate about property. Yeah. The truth is, I did it for the money. Yeah. I kind of like it, but I'm not passionate about. I do business coaching. I help my girlfriend owns a book publishing company, so and we train entrepreneurs to grow their business, and this is what we're passionate about. And I train people how to become the fear of public speaking and become speakers, and speak worldwide. This is what I do, and this is my passion. I love this thing. Yeah. However, property it's not my passion. However, a lot of happiness, wealth, and thing came from property, and I love it. You know what I mean? I understand that it's a very powerful vehicle, and let me tell you something. There is no any single multimillionaire that I know that they don't have property on some form. You know what I mean? As an alternative stream of income. Even the previous woman from the podcast with serial entrepreneur, she was saying, well, part of my wealth I've been invested in property in Australia, and she receiving this income, and her business was something else. However, she bought a lot of property in the process, and this is what she teach. She was saying, she was teaching that you can be an entrepreneur, but buy some assets that you can have your own retirement. So in the end, Wyatt, what is the last message that you have for young people, for the young generation, for people between 20 to 30 that want to have control of their life, meaning they want to have control on their own pension, they want to control of their own destiny, they want to have the freedom to decide where they want to work, with whom they want to work, because this is one of the beauty things about being an entrepreneur is you hire the people that you like. For me, I talk to people that I like. I only work with people that I like. I choose. And I think this is amazing. Not so many people have this. Can you mind being working with people that you don't like? That's horrible. Yeah. So we have the benefit and we should embrace it. So what are the messages that you have for the young generations out there that want to become property entrepreneurs?
So if you're listening out here, what I want to share with you guys is what I think the single greatest thing that happened to my life that shaped my journey. And that was I picked up 7 Habits of Highly Effective People
I
by
love
Stephen Covey. Love that book. And I actually did habit 2, which was begin with the end in mind. And so in that book, I found a quiet space and I went off by myself and I pictured my funeral. And I pictured, what is my closest friend saying at that funeral? What is my closest family member saying at that funeral? What is my religious person in my life saying at that funeral? And what is my coworker saying at that funeral? And what do you want them to say at the end of your life? And we get really clear about actually writing down their eulogy on you. Then it shapes and allows you to understand, okay, this is how I want my life to now be lived, rather than what habits do I need to change? Right? And we get really clear on your roles and what you want your life to look like, it gives you the ability to be motivated and push through hurdles that are inevitably going to come your way. And you can say, oh my God, that guy's so disciplined. I've noticed I would much rather be motivated than disciplined. And how do I motivate myself? It's because I've got a clear mission statement. I've got a clear vision for what I'm going to achieve. And that has allowed me to just push through things. So if you're sitting out there and you're like, man, I just could use some clarity and I could use a little bit less discipline and just have a little bit more light under my belly, then pick up that book. That's what I would do.
So Wyatt, if some of our listeners are listening this broadcast and they want to some kind of coaching, mentorship, they want to become property entrepreneurs in United States. However, this strategy that you are you're doing is actually very good strategy, very common in United Kingdom where we live. Works amazing, right? You in London and in UK we call it HMO, house multiple occupancy, right? So you buy a single family house, you turn into an HMO, and because you turn into a HMO, the value goes up because now it becomes commercial. You can rent it, buy the room, and then you refinance the money, and then you buy another property. And we know people that in 2-3 years they have bought 10 properties like that, really, really, really fast. Again, having the corporate job, they get the mortgage and everything, and then they build the property portfolio. And now they live from the property portfolio. So, how the people can contact you and how the process work?
Yeah. So just for your audience, I'll get a special gift. If you're still listening and you made it this far, first off, you're awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Second off, if you have made it this far, so I've got a book coming out on my birthday. It's called Your First 100 Units.
Wow.
Everything.
I love the title.
Thank you. It's everything that I have learned over the course of all the years, all the podcasts, all the failures, all the coaching. And I've distilled it into, if you haven't bought a single property, you can pick this up and buy your first. And it's broken into 3 sections. It's got how to buy property, how to systemize property,
wow,
and then how to scale it. Right. And so if you don't have any property, it's for you. If you have 2 units and you're looking to get to 10 units, that's how to systemize. And then if you've already got, 30 properties and you want to get to 100, it's got the systems in there for how to scale. So if you want to you can pick this up on Amazon, Your First 100 Units by Wyatt Simon. And then I have a secret chapter. So if you're still listening to this, send me an email and I'll send you the secret chapter. If you send me an email at Wyatt, WYATT, at FC, as in full circle, equitypartners.com.
That's fantastic, Wyatt. And you know what? We're gonna put all details in the description of this broadcast for the listeners to have it, right? And for you, my friends, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for joining the podcast. I really appreciate it. I'm so proud of you being so young and so focused. Just to give you an idea, if when I was your age, I was so focused and so determined as you are, I would be a billionaire by now. Unfortunately, when I was your age, I was partying too much and chasing guests, and I didn't even have my first business back then. I think around 29, 30s when I started to have my first business. I remember. Now I'm 47 now. 48 is a long time ago. But
it shows you can start at any time.
Absolutely.
It's never too late. And the older you are, probably the more skills you have, and more life experience, so you can make a little less mistakes. So
yeah. So I wish you the best. I see a bright future for you. Yeah. And thank you so much. And for you guys following this podcast, see you in our next episode of Unstoppable. How brave entrepreneurs like Wyatt break that wall and achieve the first million. Bye for now.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.